Welcome back to another impactful episode of the PSTA Podcast. I'm Craig King, your host, and you know what it is. Well, Patrick, wrong one, Patrick. Wrong one again. This is pure comedy. No, that's the wrong.
You got too many buttons, Craig.
There it is, everybody. Patrick Kelly, everybody. Patrick Kelly.
But all those noises do feel right for a classroom teacher. I mean, I think those are all the emotions of a typical day.
Absolutely, Patrick. And so, shout out to Kershaw County School District. Last week we had a great Hill Day. So thankful for those educators. This week we have Anderson 1, who will be joining us on Tuesday for their Legislative Hill Day. Excited to have them. And of course, your favorite guest is here, Patrick Kelly, here to talk about week 9 of the legislative agenda.
And the immortal words of Bon Jovi, we're halfway there. That is the halfway mark of the legislative session is come and gone.
Yeah, I said legislative agenda. It's been a weekend, guys. It's been a weekend. So, Patrick, tell us about, and I'm not cutting any of this, by the way. I think it makes for good comedy.
No, we're real.
We're real. We're not editing anything. So, week 9, tell us what happened. Highs, lows. What do we need to know?
Well, week 9 was a busy week in the General Assembly with a couple of education things that really stood out. On the House side, the House passed H 3360, which creates the Center for School Safety and Targeted Violence within the State Law Enforcement Division. This is a big priority for PSTA and for our member associations in the South Carolina Coalition for Safer Schools, simply to create a statewide clearinghouse for best practices, for training. This is something that will enable SLED to better deliver services to schools, to administrators, to SROs. So it's exciting to see that bill pass. It passed by a vote of 110-1. The other big notable floor action in the General Assembly is that after 4 different attempts to bring up the bill on the floor of the Senate, Senate Bill 418 finally got a vote. This is the bill that would remove the existing Read to Succeed recertification courses that teachers have to take. And the bill passed unanimously. So the bill is now headed over to the House, which gives us an outside shot of getting passed and signed into law this year by the governor. And that's certainly something that we'll be pushing for, so that as few teachers as possible have to take those Read to Succeed courses as part of their certificate renewal process.
So not asking for someone in my house or other teachers, but any teachers currently going through that process as the law currently is, how would it affect them, or would it only affect those going forward that in their recertification cycle?
Well, I mean, it would affect people after signed into law by the governor. So the sooner it gets to the governor's desk and signed into law, the quicker that it would have an impact on an individual. For somebody whose certificate is up for renewal and has to be renewed this year, then the bill's really not going to get done in time. This would be for people that are looking at certificate renewal in 2024 and beyond.
Great information. Budget week in the House, correct?
Budget week in the House starts on Monday. So this is the week where the House of Representatives comes in on Monday instead of Tuesday. Monday's action will largely be, if history is a guide, Monday's action will largely be just procedural. They will approve the various spreadsheets and line items that the Ways and Means Committee approved, with the real debate on potential amendments and provisos kicking into gear on Tuesday. That could last through the week. Last year, it managed to be completely done on Tuesday, which I think was a record. I don't anticipate that being the case this year, but it is really subject to how many amendments members of the House are bringing to the floor with them.
Well, in my years of being Patrick Kelly at the State House, I would assume there are going to be a ton of amendments, Patrick.
I think that if the House's work to date has been any guide, you're going to see some amendments this week. There have been some bills in the House this year that in the past I think would have just gotten a quick roll call, unanimous vote, that have had amendments introduced and become controversial on topics that seemingly seem uncontroversial. So you bring a $12 billion state budget to the floor, yeah, you're going to get some amendments this week.
Yeah. So if you are just looking to find something to watch, Netflix or Hulu or Prime Video just doesn't have what you want to watch, I can promise you by the time you get home from work this week, you probably can log on to scstatehouse.gov, or if you have the app, the SC Legislature app, and you can watch the amendments flow.
And just remember that a good streaming service you can always go back to. So I know Ted Lasso drops on Wednesday. That's all right. It'll still be there on Friday. Hopefully the General Assembly will not be there on Friday talking about the state budget.
It will be. So before we get out of here, I know we have 2 listening sessions still happening, correct?
Tonight, March 13th in Florence at Francis Marion University from 4:30 to 6:30. Anybody in the area that wants to come out and share some ideas with the Teacher Recruitment and Retention Task Force on how to better recruit and retain teachers, come on out. Chapman Auditorium on the campus of Francis Marion. And then next Monday, March the 20th from 4:30 to 6:30 in the Blatt Building on the State House grounds here in Columbia.
All right, sounds good. Before we go, I want to remind you, stay on with this podcast, because right after this podcast, we will have Dr. Tammy Pawloski from Francis Marion University talking about some of the great programming that they're doing there. So stay on when you see Patrick leave today, or hear Patrick leave. But before he goes, I want to give Patrick any final words before we check out today.
Yeah, the only other thing that I would encourage education advocates and policy watchers to keep on their radar this week is on Wednesday morning, a Senate Education Subcommittee will begin their review of the Transparency and Integrity Act. This is the big comprehensive bill passed by the House earlier this session that was also passed by the House last session and didn't get to the Senate in time. This is the bill that deals with prohibitions on instruction, protections of instruction, different procedures and policies. While the bill that came out of the House Education and Public Works Committee was largely aligned with PSTA's goals of ensuring that teachers can teach the full scope of the standards and that the General Assembly doesn't create new excessive burdens on non-instructional burdens on teachers. The bill that came off the floor of the House does not meet those goals. There were some significantly damaging amendments added to the bill on the floor of the House. And so hopefully the Senate is going to take the time to remove those elements at minimum, to make sure that this bill is not going to inhibit the ability of students to receive the instruction that they deserve or create the kinds of burdens and deteriorating working conditions that are driving too many teachers out of the classroom right now. That was something that struck me at the teacher listening session in Greenville 2 weeks ago, was the number of teachers who spoke out about the potential of this bill as amended on the floor of the House to create the kind of non-instructional burdens that are driving people out of the profession. This is a good space. If you haven't already reached out to your senator to ask them to remove those provisions that were added on the floor of the House, now's the time to do it.
Thank you, Patrick, for your time. And if you need a review of much of what Patrick talked about today, make sure you check out your Legislative Alert Network that went out on the 10th, on Friday, March 10th. Again, stay on. We will have Dr. Tammy Pawloski up next talking about the Center of Excellence and all the great work that they're doing at Francis Marion University. Take care, and I'll see you shortly. So welcome back to the PSTA Podcast, everybody. I am so excited about this next guest because I have a little personal story, and she's already smiling because she helped me do something pretty special years and years ago. I don't even remember the year. But I remember she reached out to me about speaking at a summer, what was the name of it?
Our
Summer Institute. That's right, Summer Institute years ago. And when she asked me, I said, well, that's my birthday. And I went back and said, well, I don't have any plans, so sure, I'll come. And that really jump-started a little project that I do every year where I do some type of community service every year for my birthday. And so I want to thank our guest, Dr. Tammy Pawloski here at Francis Marion University, for giving me my start. And I'll also share that while I was teaching third grade in Orangeburg, South Carolina, I remember I was just named District Teacher of the Year. And Francis Marion, they had already begun some work on teaching children of poverty. And I remember being on one of those initial committees while I was a third grade teacher in Orangeburg. And I remember getting on I-95 driving from Orangeburg. And I think we met probably once a month. And, it was just the beginning stages of the project, of the work they were doing. And I just want to give you your flowers now in person or on our podcast and let you know in more ways than one you've blessed my life, and really want to talk about today the work that you do here at Francis Marion with the Center of Excellence. And so I'll let you introduce yourself, but I just wanted to give her flowers and just give a little plug to Dr. Tammy Pawloski, who's been a great mentor for me.
Wow, thank you so much, Craig. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity, and just thank you for participating in all of the things the asks that we've made of you. We selected you because of your skill and your passion, and you've never let us down. You are a wonderful advocate for students in public education across South Carolina, and an advocate for teachers. And boy, we're blessed to have you in South Carolina. And I'm blessed to call you my friend and colleague.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Well, I can say Tammy then.
Yes, of course. Everyone.
So let's just talk about you a little bit. Like, where did you get your start, and how did you end up here at Francis Marion University?
Wow. It's not a straight path. Like most of us in education, our paths take lots of twists and turns. I thought when I was in undergraduate school, I'd teach kindergarten in rural South Carolina for the rest of my life. And I did that for a while, and then I finished my degree, my master's degree, and then moved into a doctoral program. And then I moved to California. Never thought I'd go to California. Spent 9 years in California. And then when my son was born, we moved back to South Carolina because we wanted to raise him close to grandparents. And so did job search and landed at Francis Marion, wanted to be in South Carolina schools, and landed at Francis Marion in early childhood education. I taught and supervised students in early childhood education for a few years, and in 2004, the Abbeville lawsuit was really ramping up. The trial was happening in Manning, South Carolina, and Dr. Lauren Anderson, a professor in my graduate program and a mentor for me, was the lead witness in the Abbeville lawsuit. And he envisioned this center that would drill into the research and identify the kinds of things that matter most in schools that serve students who are arriving with limited access to resources. And he had this idea that most of us have a one-size-fits-all teacher preparation program, meaning that we got lots of really important strategies. But if we hadn't lived in poverty, if we hadn't lived with absent resources, and we land in schools where we're working with students who live that way every day, we may not be attuned to their needs or to the barriers that are in place. And we may not really know how to remove those barriers so students can be their best selves at school and in life. And so he envisioned the center that would drill into the research and identify what kinds of things matter most and then disseminate that. I was very fortunate to be a part of his planning process in the early stages. He brought it to Francis Marion rather than to the University of South Carolina, where he was a senior professor, because he felt that it needed to be grounded in a region that served many students living with limited access to resources. And so he brought it to Francis Marion. I was very fortunate to be on the beginning stages of that, and eventually it has become the central focus of my work.
Well, that's so great to hear the historical context of your journey and the work that has driven your life. And so, let's talk about the center and some of the programs that you offer and the benefit that it provides for educators and for school districts and even institutions of higher learning.
Yes, absolutely. We when we first began this work and when you were early involved, our focus was squarely on our undergraduate students, providing support for them so that when they exited, they had many more skills and strategies and really ways of thinking that would sustain them and help them to sustain their students. But then we started to realize that there were so many teachers who were already in the field that needed the same information. And so we began to think about graduate work. graduate level courses for recertification purposes, but also in the project that you were involved in, which led to the add-on certification for teachers of children of poverty. We're the only state in the nation that has that add-on certification, and so we now have a menu of graduate offerings, including recertification courses that are offered in the summer, and then add-on certification courses that we offer throughout the year that are designed to provide the same kinds of supports for in-service teachers for graduate students. We've identified 25 practices that we think matter most, and we present them with all grounded by the science of learning, cognitive neuroscience. In other words, not just what to do, but why to do it. Why it matters for the brains of the students that we're teaching. And the reason that we do that, and we do this really for our undergraduate and also for our graduate work or activities and processes, the reason we do this is because we've learned that when we understand the why, we're far more likely to stay the course even when things get tough. If I don't know why it's important for me to build relationships, then when I'm feeling down or I'm feeling rejected by a student or something's not gone the way that I would like it to go, I might throw up my hands and say, well, relationships don't matter. But if I know the why behind building relationships, that happens to be practice number 1 of the 25. If I know the why behind that, if I know why it matters for the brain of the student with whom I'm working, why it matters for my brain, then I'm far more likely to stay that course. So we use that cognitive neuroscience to ground everything that we do. And then we, in addition to our undergraduate and our graduate work, then we also do outreach into schools. We do a lot of professional study in schools. We do, convocations and opening ceremonies and those kinds of things. But we also do, and this is the work that I am most proud of because it leads to such great sustained outcomes, is sustained professional study, monthly studies with schools or even districts sometimes, in which we study a practice each month, and then teachers implement it using action research model. We have a really simple action research model that actually many schools are aligning with their teachers' required SLOs. So they've got to do that anyway, and so we've got a model that overlaps with that very nicely, and then they collect data on that lead to measured outcomes. And so that's the work I feel like if schools call me and they say, what can we do? What's going to lead to the greatest outcomes? It's that monthly professional study. Either we lead it or we give you the tools for you to lead it. Because when you put it in place and you collect data and you measure your results, then it leads to this mindset shift of, wow, this really does matter.
I'm speechless. Which is very rare, as you know, Dr. Pawloski. I think anyone listening to this right now is saying right now, if they have a pulse that, wow, how can I get involved with this? Like, if I am a teacher or if I'm an administrator, talk to the people about how they can get involved with this work as we wrap up today.
Well, there are many ways. The first most important thing to do is to send me an email, tpawlowski@fmarion.edu, and I'll get you on our mailing list. Then you'll know about all of our events and activities as they are happening. Most everything that we do is free if you participate live. We have nationally recognized speakers that we bring in because we know that many teachers are not going to be able to go to a national or international conference. So we try to bring those speakers to our events. So get on our mailing list so that you can attend those events free and live. Coursework is another opportunity. And again, if you're on our mailing list, you'll know when those courses are released. And we will be releasing our summer offerings probably about late February. I'm not sure when this will be available, but at any point in time you can email me and I'll tell you when our courses are going to be offered. We try to offer them at very low cost so that in-service teachers can participate without a huge financial outlay. And then another really important way that any educator can be involved is in our scholars program. We have It's called Teaching Children of Poverty Scholars. It began as a professional organization for our undergraduates, but we have in-service teachers who participate as well. And it is a monthly online meeting, so it doesn't matter where you're located. You can still participate, jump in and learn, and we address a different one of the 25 strategies each month. And so it's just a sort of a mini professional development opportunity. And then if you're at another university, you can certainly participate. You can earn commencement regalia and just all kinds of things by participating with our scholars. So those are some of the ways. But I'd love to hear from anyone. Send me an email. We'll connect you with the services that you're most interested in.
Yeah, and I mean, before we wrap up, I'm glad that you have all these services offered to educators. And correct me if I'm wrong, there is an on-demand component of that too. If they can't listen to it live, they can go back. Districts can subscribe, or individuals can subscribe. Can you talk about that for a little bit?
Yes. What we've learned is that our live broadcast time doesn't work for everyone. However, we do have contractual arrangements with all of our speakers, and so we can't just push everything out, free recording forever. So we've created a subscription service. It's a minimal charge, but what that does is it gives you on-demand access to every speaker throughout the entire project for that minimal charge. So that gives you that opportunity. If you're a member of a partner district, and we have 30 school districts in South Carolina that have invested with the center as partner districts, if you are a teacher in that partner district, then everything is a reduced rate for you in that. So you want to be sure that you get that reduced rate if you're in a partner district. If you're in a district that's not a partner district, then have someone in your district contact me. It is a very minimal investment in that first year, and after that first year, it's free for that district to remain a partner district. And then that will give everyone in your district access to reduced tuition costs and reduced fees for anything that happens to be a pay type situation.
So teachers out there, if you are part of a partner district, or if you're not sure, find out before you subscribe, because you can receive all this great content at a reduced rate. And if not, it's still at a nominal cost. You can still ask your district to reach out and subscribe. A great investment. I've seen the work and been witness to the work that the Center of Excellence and Dr. Pawloski and her entire team has done over the years. So before we wrap up, is there anything else you want to share about anything Francis Marion related, or anything you want to share?
Well, we're always thrilled to work with you at PSTA and with our other partners. We're grateful for the support of the university. We have been in place since 2004, and we're proud of the work that we're doing. But we also know there's more work to be done, and so we welcome ideas, suggestions, speaker recommendations, anything people would like to share with us to help us be more of a servant to the needs of educators.
Perfect thing. And I just remember this before we go. We are currently at the Clothes Closet, professional clothes closet that we offer free of charge for first-year teachers, as well as those students majoring in education at our institutions of higher learning. So can you briefly just talk about the impact of the Clothes Closet here that we provide?
Absolutely. How could we thank you for bringing this, just so many clothing selections for our students to take advantage of. When we first heard about this a year or so ago, we said, we need this. Our students need this opportunity. And I wish that all the listeners could just see what you all have brought into this conference room that is filled with all kinds of clothing selections for students who just really don't have the funds to go out and purchase professional clothing for internships and for student teaching, and then for that first year of teaching. And what a service. You all are awesome. You have been here since early this morning, and you'll be here till late this afternoon, and we just can't thank you enough. And I know that our students are grateful for this little bit of a leg up, removing a barrier for our students. We appreciate you.
That's exactly what we say, removing a barrier, because we know our students come with so many challenges. And so as their leaders and their support system, we try to remove those barriers as much as we can. And so thank you, Dr. Pawloski, for your time today. Everybody out there, I just want to share with you, she had no idea she was going to be interviewed today, but we are excited about our PSTA podcast to share the stories across the state of South Carolina that affect public education in a positive way, and we want to share that light to everyone that'll listen. So thank you again.
Thank you for all you're doing. We appreciate you.
All right, thanks.